Say, kids, what time is it? PDR Tool Time.
Hey, everybody. This is John Hiley with PDR Tool Time coming to you today with Daniel Grom, Mike Toledo, and our special guest, Tom Ziglar. That's right. You guys heard that right. We have Tom Ziglar in the house. Yeah, we did not forget about you guys out there, you non-Dent Trainer members who wasn't with the webinar. And by the way, any of you Dent Trainer members out there, you can rewatch it at denttrainer.com. Sign up, get your Tom Ziglar on. Like, I'm having chills right now from what we just listened to. So,
yeah, are we gonna rebroadcast that to everybody or not? That one, webinar.
That one right there is for Dent Trainer members. So This will be rebroadcasted to everybody.
Okay. Well, we'll put some snippets in what Tom said. So especially,
hey guys, how are you, man?
we're all just. Oh, hey, Daniel.
Yeah. Welcome. We had Daniel Grom, who was gone.
Well, you know what? Let's. Sorry, Daniel.
Well, this is the first time I've seen Mike for like a month, I think. So it's good to see you, Mike.
Yeah.
You look well.
Yeah, Tom. Guess where I was, Tom? I was on vacation.
Yeah, vacation somewhere cool.
Yeah, Rome. I went to Rome in Greece. So, yeah, good to be back. So listen, everybody, we got a great guest, Tom Ziglar. We just had a webinar with him, and he just basically really, my mouth was open half the time, just staring at what he had to say, listening to what he had to say, and especially towards the end, we're gonna actually say we're gonna actually use Tom's what he said as a tech tip towards the end of the webinar, the podcast. What do you think, John?
I think that'd be great. You know, the close that we had talked about on the webinar would be one of the greatest tech tips that you could possibly do in certain. Can't tell you the situation, but we can say it is a situation, and it'll be something very important. So you want to hang out till the end of the podcast. And so, Tom, for all the audience out there, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And I got a specific question I want to tag into that. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what was it like being the son of the great Zig Ziglar?
All right. Well, Tom Ziglar, I've been the CEO and president here for 22 years. I started working here out of college, so 30 years now. And I'm a nerd, so I'm proud of my nerdness, but it's okay. I meet nerds everywhere I go, and that's pretty cool. Zig Ziglar was my father. He passed away almost 4 years ago, and I have to tell you, it's really just kind of surreal and amazing at how fortunate and blessed that I am. As good as he was on stage, and you know, we estimate he impacted over 250 million people. He wrote 6 books. We've got over 4 million Facebook fans. As good as he was in the public eye, he was even better at home. I mean, he was just transparent, real, caring. He never put any pressure on any of us to do anything other than this. He said to us, whatever you do, do it with 100% integrity and 100% effort.
So, nice.
That's just cool.
I bet you probably never won an argument, though, right?
Now, Tom, just so our listeners can catch up, like we know who you are, and what's your background? What do you do? What's basically made you and your father, especially your father, so popular and so, shall I say, make a difference in what people do in their everyday lives?
Well, Dad had a cornerstone philosophy, and it's his quote. You probably know his quote, and that's this: you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. That was his mission. And he woke up every day of his life pursuing that mission. So that idea of putting other people first, providing a service or a product of value, And so out of that, he researched and studied 3 hours a day on how to help other people be, do, and have more. So think about this. If your life's mission is to help other people be, do, and have more, and you study that much every day, what happens to you? I mean, like, who do you become? Yeah. Like in your own business, if right now you said, you know what, my mission in life as the owner, as the leader, as the manager, is I'm going to help everybody on my team be, do, and have more in every aspect of their life. Where do I start? Well, you start learning. And as you learn that material to teach them, who do you become in the process?
Nice. Right. Hey, Daniel.
It's a totally different strategy than, you know what, how do I get more?
Yeah.
Right.
Is there some background noise?
TV in the background or something?
No, I'm at my shop, and that's the secretary talking on the phone. I'll mute when I'm not talking.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Good. I was wondering, I'm like, where's that coming from? I'm checking my links and all this stuff. You know, we're wild about that stuff over here, but we want you guys to have the best listening experience possible. And, I heard something this morning, Tom, was very interesting to me. They said that in your household, living with Zig, that he would tell you that you don't have an alarm clock, you have an opportunity clock. And I thought that was so cool when they said that stoplights weren't stoplights, they were go lights. And, and I have the advantage to be, I'm in a mastermind group with a couple folks, and one of them, Dan, back here behind me. I don't think the podcast people have seen you yet, Dan. He's like Wilson, Wilson with wait, we can't show you the lower part of your face. He's like Wilson, with he just pops in every now and again and, and looks over the fence. But but I have that advantage that I'm working with these guys every week. We meet on Wednesday. We have a meeting, and I'll tell you, your influence has hit these folks like no other. I mean, everybody who I know has nothing but great things to say about you, and I assume that your father used to instill them thoughts in your mind because he wanted you to go through life thinking of everything in a positive way rather than a negative way.
Absolutely. I'll give you two stories. One of them is I'm 12, 13, 14 years old. When you're that age, what do you love more than anything in life? And that's sleeping late.
Oh, I was going to say girls.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that too. That's why you sleep late, right? Because you've been up.
Chasing the girls.
Every teenager likes to sleep late.
Yeah.
So I can remember Sunday morning comes around, it's 8:00. Dad comes in, knocks on my door. Son, it's time to get up. We're going to church. And I'm like, Dad, do we have to go to church? He goes, no, you get to go to church. And so that was just the way life was. You got to, right? It wasn't a have to, you get to. And when you walk into it, because here's the reality, this is a Zig quote, a positive attitude will outperform a negative attitude every time. If you're smart, you want to allow a negative attitude. Because smart people say, you know what, if I have the chance to make, $10 or $50, I'd rather have the chance to make 50. Well, a positive attitude gives you a better chance of making 50. It's not smart to be negative.
Right.
Then the other thing is what happens in life. We know this is going to happen. There's going to be problems. Things aren't going to go right. So why not plan in advance how we're going to respond to these problems? So one of Dad's famous stories is the airport story. Now, I fly a lot, and he flew incredible amounts. And if you fly a lot, you're going to have weather delays, mechanical problems, or issues with the flight crew. It's going to happen. And here's the deal. If they tell you the flight is delayed or it can't take off, there's only 3 reasons why that's happening, and that's weather, mechanical, or the flight crew. And the bottom line is, if any of those 3 things are happening, you don't want to be up in the air. You want to be down on the ground. So it's right. It's smart. And so when Dad would walk in, and we were in Phoenix, Arizona, I was 16 years old. We had just gotten done playing in a golf tournament with some friends. We're flying back to Dallas. We walk in, and the guy behind the counter, the flight agent or the booking agent says, Mr. Ziglar, I've got some bad news. Your flight's delayed for 4 hours. And Dad looked at him and said, fantastic. And the guy's like, fantastic, you're going to be stuck here for 4 hours. And Dad said, no, this is fantastic. It's air conditioned, there's restaurants. This is a 30,000 square foot office. Everything I need to do is right here. And the guy says, yeah, but it could be canceled. You could be getting out of here tomorrow. Dad looked at him and said, fantastic. And the guy's like, are you smoking something? That was and then that's where Dad told him, hey, there's only 3 reasons why that's happened. It's the weather, it's the equipment, or it's the flight crew. I want to be down here. The reality was Dad had all of the work that he needed to do in his briefcase. So he planned in advance for something to happen, and he had the backup plan in place, and he knew that his attitude would either allow him to be productive or it would derail him. So in our business life and in our personal life, we're gonna be told yes that we got an account, and then they're gonna call us back and say no. People are gonna say that the product delivery is gonna be on time, and then it's gonna be late. All these things are gonna happen, but we have a choice as to whether we react or respond. React is negative, respond is positive. And so that was one of the things. As growing up with Dad, is he just kind of bred that into us. So when something goes as not as planned, we have a choice. Do we lean into it and say, okay, God, what do you have for me now? Or do we have a fit? And if you have a fit, you're just costing yourself money and happiness and everything else.
Oh, it goes back to that, that glass thing, right? How you look at a glass, if it's halfway full or halfway empty, just always about the critical, that thinking. I guess it's always
do you know the answer to that question? Is it half full or half empty?
What's that?
You drank my water?
Yeah. No, it's half full or half empty, depending on whether you want to finish the glass or you're disappointed that there's not more.
You're right.
There you go.
It's interesting. Well, it's interesting when you talk about, I want to make this point and I'll let you jump in here, Daniel, but it's interesting when you're talking about that response or reacting, because I can look back, and if any of the audience are out there, feel this way or you're that way currently in life, I used to be a reactive person in the way where I had a temper issue. When something happened, my reaction was to get angry about it. You know what I mean? And to get upset about it. And I started reading books, and I think Stephen Covey was the one book that I had read that basically said in between response and the reaction to that response, there's a space, okay? So there's a space between the two, and that space is called choice, all right? So you make that choice within that space that causes your, what Tom would call a response rather than a reaction. Because I would believe a response would be educated. A response would be something that you thought about before you did it. And then you responded towards your best interest rather than reacting, like me getting mad and getting angry with my wife and, yelling at her or something like that. And then I got to deal with her for 2 days. And I reacted and I became angry. It was the only way I knew how to respond. But I started reading that stuff early on. We got married early on. I think I was like 21, 22 years old when we got married. I didn't even know how to act, let alone respond. And over the years, I've learned that there's a space. And then each time you take advantage of that space in between the response, the stimulus, and the reaction, each time you do something right, that space gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, okay? It's no longer something angers you right off the bat. And little by little, you can actually work your way out of that type of attitude, because that's a prison. That's like bondage.
Yep, it is. I love that.
Hey, Tom, I wanted to ask a question. Your dad was the first guy I ever listened to on tape. I used to work for a dealership, and that's the first thing they did in sales training is they would hand me one of your dad's books or tapes, and that was my first exposure to personal development, and that sent me on a road that I really, really appreciate. And I loved everything your dad had to say. And I learned a lot about sales, selling cars. How much do you know about what we do? And for guys out there trying to improve their sales techniques, what do you think we're selling? Do you think we're selling an emotional product or service, or are we selling a need?
Well, I would just flip the question on it. When you go out and sell, what do you sell?
Here we go, John.
Yeah, we're selling making your car look beautiful, and that's usually I think it's an emotional buy in most cases. It depends on the person. You can tell right away if a guy's a car enthusiast or not, and if he is, I think it's an emotional sale. If the guy's driving a crappy car and it's just transportation, I think it falls into a need. And what I want to know is, how do you sell? Do you have any advice to selling to the emotional person?
Well, I do, and it's very specific. You need to sell what they're buying.
You just sell what they're buying. Okay. See, man.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah.
Daniel, me and John and Tom, we covered
it.
this in this webinar, but we're letting you go through the rings right now. So
We're letting you go through the ringers.
but I mean, that's good, because the audience who's listening
And
doesn't know.
Yeah, basically what you're selling is adapt to each customer.
No, I'm asking, what are they buying?
They're buying to make their car look better.
Why?
Because they want to show off to others.
Yeah, so they're buying prestige. They're buying an emotional feeling.
Yep.
Are they buying peace of mind from you because they know they can count on you versus somebody else? I mean, are there any people in your industry that are kind of unsavory characters? I know they don't listen to this podcast, but the people who don't listen to this podcast, are there any unsavory characters in your industry?
I think there are. They're everywhere. Sure.
Yeah. And so what I believe is customers are buying peace of mind. They're buying savings. Now, why am I buying savings? Because I'm going to take my family on a trip in this beautiful car, and that might be the difference of where we stay. But if the car doesn't look good, or the thing isn't done right, then I'm not going to feel the same way. And so what happens is we get our brochure out and we say, hey, we use this compound and we have this technique, and it's all technical stuff, and it might be great stuff to have, but that's not what they're buying. They're buying this, like you said, this emotional feeling, this experience. And so I'm a real proponent of selling an experience. And the experience is, hey man, if anything goes wrong, call me. This is, it's got a lifetime warranty. It's, it's whatever is going to build up that experience. If you get focused on selling price, then it's a race to the bottom. Because, right? You're just going to keep driving. And the other thing too, is you're going to attract price shoppers,
And
which we all
ones.
know are the best, most fun, loving customers we have.
And picky ones. It seems like, it amazes me, Tom, that the more cheaper the customer you target, the more pickier they are as a customer. I mean,
absolutely.
They go, what about that? This, exactly. And Daniel, yeah, what you, to me personally, Daniel, you've already got what he tells you already. You have the experience. I don't know if you ever walked into Daniel Grom's shop. You can see in the background. Look at he's got a theme going on. His whole shop is like that. You walk in, it's an experience that you get the moment you walk in there. And
I'll give you an experience. I learned this from Brian Buffini. He's actually up in Carlsbad, as a matter of fact. He's a great guy. His family were painters. And so they would get a painting contract. They would go in and do a building. And before they turned it over, before the buyer came in, the customer came in, they would take great time in washing every single window in the areas that they painted, like spick and span. And they would replace the light bulbs so that they had full wattage. It cost them pennies to do this. And so the buyer would come in and they'd see this new paint job, and the sun would be coming through the room like incredible. And the light bulbs, they wouldn't even know they were changed, but the light was just that much brighter. So what they were doing is they were creating an experience to highlight the work that they just did.
Right.
Right.
I think Daniel does that. He talks a lot about buffing the panels out and stuff like that after he gets done with a repair, and my experience here is a little bit interesting. People come here. My place is like really vintage, and it's in the nicest area, but people normally come here. They actually walk through my doors, and I want this to hit home with the people out there, is that they come in here and they say, John, and I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. What's your name? Oh, I've never met you before, man. I've watched all your videos, I've seen you online. Oh, I've seen you do this dent or that dent, and it's almost like, okay, like you watch a reality show or something like that on TV, but we get the car enthusiasts, your ideal customers. They are so enthused about what we have to do in their car. They're going to watch our YouTube channel like it is a reality show. And when you put your mug in it and you talk to them, they're going to get to know you. And when they walk in, just like you would walk into, I don't know, your favorite football player, your basketball player. I mean, I always, what's up with LeBron all the time. But, if I met Kobe, somebody who I don't know, unlike LeBron. But I already told you guys about that in the last episode. If I met Kobe, I'd say, Kobe Bryant. And he'd look at me like, who are you? But I've seen him. And I feel as if I know him. And that's the importance nowadays of communicating, not only online, like what we're doing right here. And I'm gonna say this. This is so important. It's not who you know. Okay, and Tom can tell you this. It's not who you know. Specifically, it's who knows you. Who you know can't be scaled. Okay, you can manage 200 contacts or something like that. 200 people. But millions of people, just like the millions of people that are on Zig Ziglar's Facebook page, does Tom know every one of them? No. But he can put his face out there and every one of them can get to know him. And that's a beautiful thing. You need to come at your community with that mindset. Get yourself out there. Do things. Become bigger, better every day. All
right, Tom. I'm going to hit you with this question that you answered, that you said someone else has only asked you one time before and you already answered this. It's going to be a little repetitive, but we just want to, you just did a really good job. What's the fastest way? I think John already asked that, right, John? What is the fastest way to success?
Yeah. The fastest way to success. Well, here's the interesting thing. I'm 51, so I'm born into this industry. Right, personal development, how to be successful, understanding all the steps. And last year was the first time anybody had ever asked me that question. But isn't that the best question ever? What's the fastest way to success? Because who wants the slow way? What's the slowest way? Or what's the most complicated way? Or what's the hardest way, right? We want the fastest way. And in the room, since I'd never been asked that question, just popped out of my mouth. The fastest way to success is to replace bad habits with good habits. And I didn't even realize I'd said it. I wrote it down afterwards. My friend said, hey, you know what? You said this. I researched it. Nobody else had said it. I claimed it. And then I started to test it for the truth that it has. Because too many people, they go down the path and it has a dead end, right? Because it sounds good, but doesn't work out. So I went down the path, and there's a quote out there that I love, and it's this: you cannot determine your future, but you can determine your habits, and your habits will determine your future.
Nice.
So when we look at our life, the results that we're getting are simply the fruit of our habits, good or bad. And so success is simply the fruit of good habits. We teach that in our lives, there's 7 areas. There's the spiritual, the mental, the physical, the family, the financial, the career, and the personal. Those are the 7 areas of our life. Any goal that we set, anything that we want to accomplish is going to happen in one of those 7 areas. And so here's the idea. What if I just replaced a bad habit with a good habit, and I did that once a week for 52 weeks in a row? And on the webinar a little bit ago, we talked about in the physical area, if you drink a Coke, a soft drink every day, which is a bad habit, we all know that. There's nothing good. I think soft drink is a marketing term. It should be called a hard drink. Yeah, absolutely. It's just not good for you. If you drink one of those every day and you replaced it with a bottle of water, you'll lose 17 pounds over the year if that's the only thing that you do and everything else stays the same. You won't ingest 48 pounds of sugar if you do that. Scientists say that if they discovered sugar today, it would be banned by the FDA.
That's right.
Right? I mean, it's not a good thing. And so you go around your life and you say, okay, mentally, what's a bad habit I have mentally? You might watch TV like for hours because we know statistically most people do. Well, what if you just took 30 minutes of TV time as a bad habit? You got rid of it and you replaced it with inspiration and educational material. How much would your life change? Family time, another area of your life. Everybody's addicted to technology and cell phones, and every time we go out to eat, we're all competing with each other because everybody's on the phone. What if just one night a week we put technology away and we had a real conversation? So we can start thinking of a little bad habit to get rid of and replace it with a little good habit. And at the end of the year, our whole life has changed. And there's a quote that I love, which illustrates this. This is a Zig Ziglar quote. He said, hurricanes and tornadoes get all the publicity, but termites do more damage, and they take such little bitty bites.
Good one.
And so as we look at our life, what are little bad habits that we have that if we replaced it for a good habit, everything would change? At our work, we don't have an agenda for our meeting. So they take 45 minutes to an hour. We put an agenda in, and now they're tight and 30 minutes long. How much did we just save over the year? So it's an amazing thing to think that that's all we got to do is just one little thing. So we go around this wheel, and every week, and we take one of these pie sections of the wheel, the mental, the spiritual, the family, and we just every week replace a bad habit with a good habit in each area. And by the end of the year, we're a different person.
Yeah.
Termite-sized bites is what we're talking about.
Going back.
We're not talking about running a marathon tomorrow. We're talking about getting out of our chair 3 times a day for a 5-minute stretch walk.
Well, that's going back to like technically balancing your wheel.
Yeah.
Your life is like a wheel. You got to have some balance there. So
absolutely
start with those good habits, like you said. And I was mentioning earlier, as I gave up soda this year, I feel a lot better. Besides, I don't want any health problems coming to my way. I know I'm addicted. That stuff's like crack to me. So, I mean, if someone pops open a soda can next to me, man, I'm like, I still would like, man, I wonder how that tastes right now, So, but
hey, Mike, I'm with you. I did the same thing. I gave up soda. I kind of had to. I just recently went to a camp for my daughter who's a type 1 diabetic, and there was no sugar at this camp, none. So I went on a sugar fast for a whole week, and I went through withdrawals the first couple of days. I got better as the week went along, but now I'm good. Now I'm staying away from it. And I'm already lost 10 pounds. It's good.
Yeah, good for you.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Daniel. I'll tell you guys something interesting. I'd like to make mention when we talk about balancing the family wheel and stuff like that. When we were in the beginning creations of denttrainer.com, and then me and Mike, we put together the PDR Nation. We helped build their website and build out their educational curriculum. I got so overwhelmed and so busy that when I was at home at night, I worked all night long. So I worked all day long, and then I worked all night long. So what would happen is my wife would be talking to me, and I would be focused on work, and that's it. And I spent a year or 2 years, maybe more, where I didn't even listen to her. Like she would go and talk and talk and talk, and she'd say, "Did you hear anything that I just said?" And I could regurgitate snippets of what she was saying to me, but I couldn't tell her exactly what she said. And it caused some resentment for me. And I mean, you guys all know my wife out there. If you guys follow me around the social
media, that goes for any women.
Right. So she had resentment for me. And at one point when I started the Miracle Morning, which is now I call the Spiritual Surrender, it was one of the things. Actually, on the 13th day, I've got it documented. I knew I had to fix my marriage. I knew that I had a marriage that needed fixed in certain ways. And I read a book. It was called The 7 Ways to Be Your Hero. And one of the biggest things I want you guys to take away out there here in the rest of the world is you got to realize that when a man and a woman come together and they're married, they become one person. Anything that you do to that one person, you do to yourself. Okay? So anything that you do, like if I ignore my wife, I'm ignoring part of myself. And it's nothing but downhill from there. Okay? So you need to, I figured out that I had to nurture this person, my loved one, my wife, as myself. You know, that's how we build each other up. It was my responsibility as a man to build her up to the greatest person she can be. And I took the liberty to do that. And the first month, she revolted. She said, "Who are you?" You know what I mean? You're listening to me now. You know, you're loving on me. Who is this guy? And her big thing was she didn't want to be hurt again. You know what I mean? She's like, okay, if I get used to this, then he's going to start treating me like he used to. And then he's going to hurt me again at some point, right? So I had to overcome that because the pretense of the book is the 7 ways to be her hero. If you're in this situation, get that book. And the whole deal about it is what do heroes do in the face of adversity? They still do what's right. And I kept plowing through, being good to her, listening to her, being a better husband. And now to this day, it's almost like you know how when you first meet somebody and you're walking around and, you know, I'm going behind her, grabbing her and kissing her, you know, and that's what it feels like now just because of that initial shift right there. And that's all, you know, things that Tom and Mike are talking about here. So if you guys are in that situation out there, I just wanted to bring that up. I felt compelled to talk about that. So
Nice, John. Okay, back on track now with Tommy. So, Tom, hey, now there's some out there there's some questions out there for Dent guys, and we all want to know if we're doing the right thing and are setting up goals. Is there a specific way that somebody wants to, let's say, you know, they're a mobile guy right now, even though you don't know our industry really well, but if somebody wants to set up different goals for themselves, is there a particular way you set up goals, or is there you know, something specific that you concentrate on first and then build off of?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I want to point out. One is we actually teach a goal setting system, and there's actually a sequence that you've got to follow. And I'll just give an example. How many of you know somebody who studied in school as an engineer, a doctor, an attorney, and they're no longer doing that? Right?
A lot.
So what happened is, you know, I tell people there's only one thing worse than setting a goal and not achieving it. You know what that is? It's setting the wrong goal and achieving it.
I achieve wrong goals.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so what we do in this process is you go through this system, and the first thing you do is you write down all your dreams, everything you want to be, do, and have. Where do you want to go? What do you want to be known for? What legacy you're going to leave? What's your reputation going to be? You know, what stuff do you want to acquire? I mean, are you a classic car person? Do you like to travel? Are you going to leave a fortune to your kids? You know, what are all the things that you want? And that list could be 50, it could be 100, it could be 200. So let's just say it's 100, and it might take you a week to go through it because you're going to spend an hour thinking about it. Then the next morning you're going to wake up, you're going to add to it. Once you get that, then you ask yourself why. Why do you want those things? And if you can, in a sentence, articulate it, then it's not really yours. Right? And then you go through these questions. Is it morally right and fair to everyone concerned? Is it really my goal or dream, or is it my parents or my spouse or my friends said I should do this? And you narrow that down. So out of 100, you might end up with 30 or 40 that make the cut. And then you start prioritizing. And I love Gary Keller and the one thing, and so you look at those different goals and you're like, okay, what's the one thing that changes everything?
Yeah.
Right. And then we need balance. So we need a family goal. We need a personal goal. I tell people they should work on 3 things every day. They're physical, they're mental, and they're spiritual. We got to have stamina and endurance physically in order to handle the challenges of life. So we better have a goal or a process or a habit that fills that up. Mentally, man, you don't have to look for bad news. It just finds you, right? In the line at Starbucks, in the parking lot at church, on the TV, the radio, doesn't matter. Bad news overwhelms you. So you got to put the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and the positive into your mind every single day. So that I call it my time capsule in the morning. You've got the what you do every single morning. We put the right stuff in our mind so we can have that reservoir of inspiration and knowledge and wisdom to counteract all the negative stuff. And then there's the spiritual. I think we got to work on that every day. I mean, Dad was humorous in how he said it, but he said, your faith is important. I've done the math. You're going to be dead a whole lot longer than you're going to be alive. Right. And so we've got to understand the spiritual side of ourselves and invest in that. So there's things that we need to do every day. And then there's the goals that change everything. And so right now, for most people, it might be a relationship goal with their spouse, taking it to the next level. Because if you have the home court advantage, it changes everything. Right? You've got that security, you've got that support. You know that no matter what happens, you got somebody pulling for you.
Yeah.
And the other might be a business goal. So you look out and you go, okay, I want to grow my business by 50% or 20% or whatever. That's a big goal. Okay, what's the one thing I can do right now that's going to change that? Is it a marketing thing that I need to get involved in? Is it raising my prices to my existing customer base? Is it putting a system in place to manage the projects that we have so that we don't have things fall through the crack? What is it? And then once you set that goal, then there's a 7-step process that we teach. So you identify the goal and you write it out in detail as the goal. Then you list out your benefits to make sure that it's worthwhile. Here's the reality. The benefit list should be huge. It has to be, because if it's not, then struggle is going to come and you're going to give up.
Hey, Tom, when you say you teach it, so for our listeners, how would they get that information? Do you do tapes? Do you seminars? What personal coaching? What's the way you teach that?
Yes.
All of it.
All the above.
Got it.
Yeah, I would tell you the program that I'm most engaged with is called Live to Win. It's a live webinar series that I teach. And I would just go to our website at Ziglar.com and check that out. But I teach goal setting, and I teach that fastest way to success. So it's all part of that. But in that 7-step process, you write it down in detail. You chart out the benefits of it. Then what skills are, what obstacles and challenges are you going to have to overcome? Like if you're trying to lose weight, for me, my body retains ice cream. I mean, it's just so we can't have ice cream in the house if I'm trying to lose weight, or popcorn, by the way. So you got to think how much time do you have? That's an obstacle. So you might have to carve time out. Skills or knowledge you need to acquire. Maybe you don't know how to get there. Maybe you don't know how to systemize your marketing. So you go get an expert, right? You join your group and you get inside information on how to systemize your marketing specifically for your industry. It's the greatest thing you can do. People you got to work with. Then you put in the plan of action. And then you set a deadline. So those are the 7 steps. They're straightforward, but most people don't do it. So here's the ninja quick goal setting principle. Here's what goal achievers do. Goal achievers do 3 things. They write the goal down in detail. They work on it every day, and they have an accountability partner. I have a weight loss program that I do with people. It's awesome. If you would like to lose 10 pounds in 30 days, just raise your hand. Anybody like to do that? Because I have a guarantee.
Put that hand up, Mike. You just went to Europe with that food tour.
I have a guaranteed method. Okay. I promise it works so you don't get your money back. So here's how it works. You send me a check for $10,000. along with a picture of you on the scales and what it is. And then 30 days later, you send me another picture of you on the scale. And if you've lost 10 pounds or more, I'll send you your $10,000 back. It's awesome.
Yeah, you're gonna lose it, aren't you?
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's unbelievable. So, yeah. So there's got to be commitment involved, but an accountability partner is part of that. So whenever somebody wants to take their life, business, or personal to the next level, if they can get a coach, if they can join an accountability group that's going to really dig in and say, why do you want to accomplish this? And if the reasons are sound, hey, I'll hold you accountable. I'll tell you the truth in love when you need to hear it.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, how many seminars do you do a year yourself?
Probably days. I mean, some of our seminars are multiple days, but I would say, 70, 80 full days a year of teaching and training.
For our listeners, I think that's the best thing you can do, because when you go to a live seminar, you're submerging yourself. You're guaranteed not to have interruptions when you're at a seminar, and you're there to focus on yourself, and you're going to get a lot more out of it. When's your next seminar? When can our listeners go see you?
Well, let's see.
A little plug there.
Yeah, I do different ones. I'm going to be in Hickory, North Carolina next week. So if you want to come out to that one, that's a business owner boot camp that we're doing. Coming up in September, we're working with business owners. Our certification program where we certify people to teach us, our next one's in September. It's all on our website at Ziglar.com. We have a Speakers Institute where we teach people how to speak. That's coming up in October. If you want to go to Europe with me, this is kind of cool. I'm doing a European tour. Poland, Amsterdam, and Oxford.
Wow.
I recommend that. That's the last week of September, first week of October. And the first week in November, I'm going to be in Papua New Guinea. So,
Hey,
Nice.
Tom, don't eat the cookies in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Go into a shop,
Yeah.
just skip the cookies and brownies.
skip the cookies.
Like that.
Yeah.
You might come back and be hippie Tom Ziegler, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, that wouldn't be.
It could be reggae, zig.
Reggae.
Ziggy.
How like Snoop Lion turned into Snoop Lion.
Wait, how much time we got
Tom
left, Tom?
Lion.
John, how much time we got left on this show?
We are doing good. We're 43 minutes into the podcast. If you guys would like, we can always go into technical tips, or however you want to do it, man.
Well,
I'm an open
I was going to ask
You know
him.
how we flow. Here's what our audience has to understand. We're talking about making plans and stuff like that. Well, unfortunately, we all are people that go on the fly. So our podcast is usually on the fly. It's not like a structured, strategic, we're going to do this and that. We do try to, follow the plan a little bit, but we don't want to limit this group of personalities and stuff like that. So,
Yep. Go ahead.
Let me just say this. The easiest way to get to know what we do is just to get our newsletter at Ziglar.com, and it's free. It's called Significance.
right.
Right.
Yeah, I want to give a testimonial for you here, and I don't think I've done this. I've done it over there on the live webinar that we had at denttrainer.com. But I am in a mastermind group with several folks, including Dan back here behind me. You can barely see his khakis or his jean shirt right here, or Wilson per se. I'm in a mastermind group with Shayna as well from E3 Financial. And they both just recently attended Tom's coach course. Now, I don't think they're a coach yet. They got to go one step further, I'm thinking. But now they're certified to present the Ziglar material. And I want to say that was like a 2-day course, but they came back all gooey. You know how
5
people,
days.
5-day course, you know how people are when they come back from something that's life-changing, like how they're kind of gooey?
Yeah,
They're hey, I'm gooey right now. And so Dan over here, Mr. Gooey back here behind me, he's still a little gooey.
Yeah.
Look, he's rocking. He's got a smile from ear to ear. And that's the type of impact that the Ziglar organization has done on people that I see. Now, David, their head coach, is in the same mastermind group with me. He recently fell in love and moved to Austin, Texas. Is that true? He fell in love, right?
Fell in love. He's actually here at Plano. He's officing down the hall.
Oh, he's officing down the hall, Plano. Good friend of mine. We've been in a mastermind for it's been about a year, Dan, or so. About a year or so, and it was very, very spiritual. And now we're moving towards spiritual, but accountability. As Tom's saying right here, we're really like nailing it down. Like, what are you doing this week? What needs to be done? Why does it need to be done? What's your one thing? And do it.
Yep.
So tremendous stuff over here. Tremendous content. I mean, I see it changing people's lives right here in Dayton, Ohio.
Good deal.
Amen.
Well, let's get into the tech tip. The tech tip. I'm just gonna say it's the tech tip. Daniel, do you got a tech tip? Because I'd like to have Tom go last.
I always got a tech tip.
I know you do.
Come on.
Go. Okay.
Let's hear.
Spit it out.
So let's see. Should I do a motivational one, or should I do an actual tech tip?
Yeah, do an actual tech tip.
Okay. Here's a really super. It's gonna seem silly, but a plastic 7-Up crate. I don't know where I got this thing, but it's a 7-Up crate, plastic one. It's about 4 inches high, and I use that thing all the time. When you're working on a car, a lifted truck, and you're just not quite tall enough, and a step stool is too big, and a step ladder is too big, but a little crate that's only 4 inches high, you stand on it, and it's kind of gushy in the middle, and it's easy on your feet, gives you just enough height to work on a hood, and I have it in my shop, and it works great. It does double duty. I throw stuff in it all the time, but when I need a couple extra inches, I'm a short guy. I'm only 5'9". So there's my tech tip. I wrote it down because I was using it the other day, and I was like, I'm going to throw this in as tech tip.
That's good. Mine was going to be a trampoline. So you just bounced and
but it's kind of like a trampoline.
Yeah, I know. It's got some spring to it. Yeah.
Is that how you're losing all that European weight, Mike? Trampoline?
No, man. You have to walk in Europe, man. You take a lot of.
You didn't gain any weight. You told us you look like a sausage.
I sustained, actually.
You balanced out.
Yeah.
Balanced out.
I take it you didn't listen to the podcast we talked about you, huh?
I did. I heard you guys taking some jabs at me. So yeah. John, any tech tip for you?
You know what? I want to do a little tech tip here, and it's going to be a little bit about social media. I've been specifically reading a book about the psychology of social media. It's by a psychologist who happens to specialize in the social media platforms and studying how people interact and things like that. It's been a phenomenal book. But one of the important things I want to tell you guys that, like, especially if you're leveraging your personal page, which I do a lot about that, a lot of that, leveraging my own personal page to just reach out to people. But you got to be careful. Your personal page is a lot like if you had everybody in that page in a ballroom together and you guys were shaking hands and you're socializing, you're having a good time, the drinks are flowing. That's what I want you to think of your personal Facebook page. Now, would you walk around in that environment just shoving your business card in people's faces? Hey, we do this. Hey, I do that. Hey, here's my business card. Of course you wouldn't. You got to understand, if you're trying to leverage your personal page in a situation for business, you can't bring business into it. The way you do that is being genuine, finding people's posts that you genuinely care about, talking on them, being somebody who is good at socializing in that environment without whipping out your business card and jamming it in everybody's face, because that's not why they're there. They are there. Now, you can do some stuff like that. If they go to your business page or something like that, then they're there for a reason. They're at your business page because they want to buy something from you. At that point, stick your business card in. But I still also, I'm here to tell you, I did B&I for a couple years, and that's business international networking. And we always did this display where we would have like 15 minutes to show something about ourselves and talk about our business and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, the whole room, I watched it every time, would engage you when you were talking about your family, your kids, the trips you went on, your passions. As soon as you start talking business with people, they kind of like got engaged, but they left it. Like people want to see you. They want to see your authentic self. So if you put that out there on an online platform, that's what you want to do to engage your customers. I actually, when I was in Cleveland, when the Cavaliers took it, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over again, but when I was in Cleveland, I posted some photos on my Facebook page. I actually had several people come in saying, I seen you and your family in Cleveland. They just loved seeing me and my family, and that's really engaging to potential customers. So I want everybody think about bringing that social, that element into your social media marketing.
Perfect. Good deal. Good deal, John. Because I know you get more stronger at that social media stuff right there, especially that Facebook stuff.
What do you got, Mike?
Okay, I'm going to set this up with Tom here, because this is probably the part that's, I wouldn't say it's dang darn worth listening to all the way to this point. So I'm going to set this up for you, Tom. I'm going to speak for the dent guys out there. We've got this dealership we've done, and they want us to drop our pants. We agreed to we're getting cars. We do cars, each car for $65 to $100 a car. And a manager one day says, "Look, I want you to do every car for $50." Or you got a customer, you sent them a quote back, and you hit them up and you say, I can take out all your dents for $400. And then you get a reply back saying, can you do it for $200? And Tom, this is probably the biggest frustration of our industry. Besides having a brick and mortar where you can pretty much, have your prices there and most customers won't argue. But for us guys who are out on the road, who got to deal with bargaining prices and talking back and forth, there's got to be a really good, a comeback to help these people understand the value of our service. And we talked about this on the webinar and the other one. You had an awesome reply. This is the tech tip of this podcast. What would your answer be, Tom?
All right, so let me just set that up with, you've already built the relationship. You've told them about how many years you've been in business. You've got happy and satisfied clients. They know the education, the value, the reputation that you bring. So it's not like, 2 minutes after you met them, here's the price, right? They know what you offer. They know that you offer a unique experience. They know that you stand behind your work, that you have testimonials and referrals that they can call on at any second, right? Because you are credible. You've been doing it a long time. You take pride in your reputation. So then they say, can you drop the price, which is really what this is about. So you might want to get your pen and paper out if you're listening, because you're going to want to write this down. This is my favorite of all of Zig Ziglar's overcoming price objection closes that I've ever heard. And this has probably made people more money than anything else that is a quotable quote from Dad. And so here it goes. When they say the price is too high, and you've already explained the value, the experience, the benefits that you offer, you simply respond this way. So here's what you want to write down. Mr. Prospect, our company decided many years ago to explain the price one time rather than to apologize for poor quality and service over and over again. And I bet that you're glad we made that decision, aren't you?
There you go.
What are they going to say to that?
What are they going to say about that? Because you're asking them, what do you want? Do you want quality or do you want a cheap price? You can't have both right there. So,
take my wallet.
Yeah,
Here.
Here's my card, man.
You want a tip? There's some money in there.
It's important that you finish with that question back to them. When you say, and I bet you're glad we made that decision, aren't you?
Well, because you're putting the ball back on their court and making them put them in a corner going, what did you really ask me if you want me to lower my quality or you want to pay for the value of my service?
Right.
I think you hit it on the head. I think techs aren't explaining what you said at first. They're not explaining how many years they've been in business, how long they've been doing this. This is an art form, and you're really good at what you do. You have to explain that up front. And I think a lot of guys get insulted when customers ask for a lower price, and I think guys get emotional about it.
Right.
It's because they didn't do their job up front.
Yeah, and you've got to be bold, and don't try to improvise. Don't try to come up with your own version of it. I'm just telling you, as weird as it sounds, that's all you do, is you just repeat back that, Mr. Prospect, Mr. Smith, our company decided many years ago to explain price one time rather than to apologize for poor quality and service over and over again. And I bet you're glad we made that decision, aren't you? And you just let it sit there. You let them come back on it.
Yeah. Just let it simmer.
Push through that awkward silence. I love doing that sometimes, like waiting somebody out.
Yeah.
Oh, and
No, John's good at that. I've seen him do that.
whoever talks first buys.
Yes. Yeah.
Whoever talks first in that truth. I like it when it gets super, super awkward, and say a word.
Yeah.
That's it. It's hard, but you do that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes, I've never forgot this, is there are no traffic jams on the extra mile highway. Is that the right quote? That's your dad's quote, right?
Yeah, there are no traffic jams on the extra mile.
Yeah. I've never forgotten that quote.
So anyhow, guys, we are going to end out this episode of PDR Tool Time. And I want to go real quickly. I want to go one step further. If y'all out there do what I'm talking about, getting your videos together, doing your marketing right, and setting yourself away from your competition, you won't even have to explain these things to them, because the right people will get to you, and they'll know. So when you get to that level, you've leveled up your tools, right, Daniel?
That's right.
Especially your marketing tools. So
yeah.
All right, guys. So hang out here for a second, Tom, when we close out. And we're going to go ahead and close out this episode of PDR Tool Time.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.